how did you deliver the products, and what were like customer experiences at that point in time which led you to the foundation of Zepto?
In the first lockdown, it became very hard for people to get basic stuff. Like my granddad was stuck in his house. He couldn't get his basic things. The kirana guys in his neighborhood had gone back to their village. In that first wave of COVID in 2020,
संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है.
and so on WhatsApp, people would message us, okay, I want X, Y, and Z. We would go find some store that's open, buy the stuff from there, go to the person's house, deliver it. It was not a business from a specific store. A delivery partner would go pick it up, deliver it to your house. We struggled to find delivery partners after 10 p.m. And so what we used to do back then, after 10 p.m., so we would go to deliveries ourselves. Every year, how much money is spent on grocery in the city of Mumbai? It's 3.5 lakh crores. That's how much people are spending on groceries. There was this LPG shortage. Believe it or not, like on a normal day, 10 to 20 induction cooktops used to sell. When this LPG whatever issue happened a few months back, in one day we sold like 10,000 induction cooktops sold in one day.
How much money ideally does a delivery partner make in different parts of India per month?
So it depends purely on how much they work. Number can go as high as like 35,000-40,000 rupees a month.
What's the craziest delivery boy complaint or customer complaint you have received, and how did you resolve that?
I'll tell you guys a funny story. All of a sudden, one fine day, we saw a lot of orders where people are ordering like a 20 rupee Amul Cool and that's it. And the reason for that is because every order they were getting a free dragon fruit. And so we figured that someone is trying to like play around here. And so one of the guys in our team, he was like, "Nahi, main jaake dekhta hu." And he went along with a delivery partner and saw that there were these like 2-3 kids, 7 or 8 years old, ordering the Amul Cool because that 20 rupee Amul Cool was the cheapest product on Zepto. So this guy from our team, Chetan, he's like a big bulky guy. He went and scared them away from, constantly ordering these Amul Cools to get the dragon fruit. So yeah, that's a funny story from back in the day.
ऐसा कभी हुआ है that Zepto बंद पड़ गया and you had to use Swiggy, Instamart or Blinkit to order groceries? Let's give a huge round of applause for Kaivalya Vora, please. He's one of the founders of Zepto, and today we are going to discuss everything about quick commerce industry and all the insightful things. So, thank you so much for coming all the way. First question, very simple one. Where do you order your online groceries from, and what's the last thing you ordered?
Firstly, before that, thank you to the Grow team for having me here. I believe it's 10 years of Grow, so congratulations to the Grow team as well. Obviously, I order everything on Zepto. The last thing I ordered. So I recently actually moved houses, and so a bunch of stuff related to that. Cooking utensils, bartan, dustbins, like all kinds of home stuff. That was my last big order.
That's amazing. So let's go back to your early days. And I remember reading a story where you started from a small area in Andheri called Shere Punjab, where you used to stay. And you used to deliver the groceries, and you used to deliver to your first few set of customers. Can you walk us through some interesting stories? Like, can you just explain us in terms of how did you deliver the products, and what were like customer experiences at that point in time which led you to the foundation of Zepto?
Yeah, good question. So actually, there were a couple of phases to this. So when we first started, it was only in Shere Punjab, which is not too far from here, Andheri East. That's where that's sort of like where my family home kind of is. And so we started there. There's a lot of joint families there, a lot of elderly folks. And so in COVID, the reason we stumbled across grocery as this whole idea was because in the first lockdown, it became very hard for people to get basic stuff. A lot of, like my granddad was stuck in his house, couldn't leave his house. He couldn't get his basic things. The kirana guys in his neighborhood had gone back to their village. I was trying to order on Amazon, Flipkart, whatever, like these, kind of players. And they were taking 7-8 days to deliver. And so in that first wave of COVID in 2020, it was just very hard to get basic stuff. And so, that's where we got the idea of trying to play around with this thing, trying to help people out in Shere Punjab, basically. And so on WhatsApp, people would message us, okay, I want X, Y, and Z. We would go find some store that's open. We were not as scared of COVID as we should have been. So we would go find some store that's open, buy the stuff from there, go to the person's house, deliver it, right? It was not a business. We were not trying to make any money from it. It was just to help people out. This drone is very cool, by the way. It's a little, yeah. But help people out, help elderly people out in our neighborhood. Um, that just gave us this insight that, "theek hai yaar, this is like interesting, right? People seem to be using it. And so we thought, okay, maybe we can do this at a little bigger scale. At that point is when we actually built a really basic app. It was not called Zepto, it was called Kirana Cart. That was like the first, business per se that we did, where we tried to do a marketplace where similar to Zomato and Swiggy for food, instead of restaurants, there were grocery stores or Kirana stores, and you would order something from a specific store. A delivery partner would go pick it up, deliver it to your house. There, we still did a lot of deliveries because we struggled to find delivery partners after 10 p.m. And so what we used to do back then actually was throughout the day, we would be coding or doing customer support phone calls or whatever. After 10 p.m., we had no delivery partners, so we would go do deliveries ourselves. And so that actually just gave us a lot of, face time with the customer, which I think is very important, because ultimately, to build any kind of business, having customer love is, super important. Without that, getting customers to come again and repeat again is very hard. And so having that FaceTime with customers, whenever we used to deliver Ring the Doorbell, you would ask them a lot of questions. How was your experience? How did you find out about the app and all of that stuff? And talking to those customers actually is what influenced the journey to actually go and start Zepto. Because at that point, our average delivery time was like 45 to 60 minutes. There were a lot of issues where customers would order a red lace, it would be out of stock. They would get a phone call saying, okay, can I have a blue lace instead? So it was not a great experience. And what customers would tell us actually is that, okay, right now it's COVID, it's a lockdown. That's why I'm using your service. But this is Kirana Cart, right? Before Zepto. But as soon as COVID ends, I'm going to go back to shopping the same way that I was earlier. So that's when we realized, that, actually we need to think of something different. And that's when we went back to the drawing board and came up with the idea for Zepto. And eventually, launched Zepto in July 2021.
Do you remember the first time when you went to deliver a product to a customer? What was the exact conversation and how was the reaction of the customer?
In the Zepto, yeah. So the next step after this, when we said, okay, we need to think of something different, we thought of the idea of, delivering in 10 minutes or delivering quickly. The way that idea came from is because basically there were 100 or 200 different Kirana stores or supermarkets that were there on Kirana Cart at the time. And on average, we were delivering in 45 minutes to 60 minutes. But, there were some customers that just by chance lived very close to the store that they were ordering from. And so they were getting their deliveries in like 10 to 15 minutes. Those customers were like our power users. Like they had the highest retention, highest word of mouth and all of these things. And so we said, okay, maybe there is something interesting about this speed dynamic. And so what we did is we tried to simulate what it would be like to deliver in 10 minutes, right? And so there was a shop in Oshiwara, not too far from here, which we sort of converted into like a mini dark store in a sense, where we would sit there. As soon as an order would come, we would, pick and pack all the items in like 60 seconds, get on a bicycle, because we either would deliver on a bicycle or an auto rickshaw because we didn't have licenses. And so we'd get on a bicycle, deliver in like 10 to 15 minutes just to see. The idea at that point was just to test. Okay, if you do deliver in 10 minutes, right, or very quickly, how does a customer react? And we did that for only 2 days, because in those 2 days, every single customer we would go to and ring the doorbell, the look on their face would just be it was like a shocked look. Yeah, how is this possible? Right? Like I clicked some button on some app. This I'm talking about in March, April 2021, right? Like it's now all of you are very used to this experience and it feels very normal, but back then it was not normal, right? Because, someone would click a button on an app, 10 minutes later, the doorbell would ring with whatever they've ordered. People freaked out a little bit, right? And we did that for 2 days. And in those 2 days, every customer we would ring the doorbell, the reaction was the same. And so that's what gave us the conviction, okay, we don't know how we're going to do this whole thing or how we're going to build this business or any of the details, but we just were working backward from yaar, jo reaction that was there on the customer's face, how do I replicate that a million times, right? And so that's when we said, okay, let's go all in on building this quick commerce thing. But yeah, that's the story from the early days.
And then I think you launched your first dark store in Bandra, right? In Mumbai.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And if we just spend some time on dark stores, so what's the trend which is happening right now in 2026, where you're seeing that these are some tier 2 or tier 3 cities where the demand for online groceries is increasing, and that's where people can also open their dark stores, and that's where like people can also find some white space opportunities. So what's the trend you're seeing right now?
Yeah, see, India is a very big country, right? I remember, funnily enough, when we had started, a lot of people used to, like, people that we were hiring in our early team used to ask, yaar, will we ever expand internationally and go to other countries and stuff? And my response would always be that, yeah, India is a very big country, right? It's going to take a very long time before, you saturate your market in India, especially because grocery retail is like, if not one of the, it's like, if not the largest, it's one of the largest categories in the country, right? To give you guys an idea, I think a couple of years ago, the amount of money people used to spend on grocery in India was like $800 billion or something, right? It's one of the largest categories that we have. And so it's very hard to imagine that category ever being saturated. Now, to answer your question about, how does this split look like between metro cities or tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 cities? So, like I said, India is a very large country. There are burritos here, right? I'm not talking about quick commerce. I'm just talking about general grocery consumption. There are some burritos here where, for example, the top 20 cities will account for like the 50% of the spending, and the top 200 cities will account for 80% of the spending and all of that. But there are a lot of opportunities everywhere, right? I can't share too many numbers, like, because we're going through this IPO process. But what I can tell you, without talking about Zepto numbers, is, there is a lot of there is a lot of opportunity in cities like Ahmedabad and Jaipur and Lucknow and Nasik and, all of these places. But at the same time, cities like Bombay, right, also are very, very large markets. So just to give you some numbers, Bombay grocery. Anyone want to guess how large? In crores, every year, how much money is spent on grocery in the city of Mumbai? In crores, if anyone wants to guess. You can shout. I don't know if we'll be able to hear you or not, but if you want to shout, you can.
Any guesses? Anyone?
Okay, I don't think we can hear you. I'll tell you the number. It's 3.5 lakh crores in just the city of Bombay. Right? That's how much people are spending on groceries. If you look at how big we are in Bombay, plus all of modern trade, DMart, Reliance Retail, every kind of retailer, like organized retailer, we would be a very small fraction of that 3.5 lakh crore number in just the city of Bombay, right? And so I think the reason I gave this example is that, there is just still so much headroom for, any retailer. I'm not talking about Zepto or quick commerce or supermarkets or any of those things. All of retail, all of organized retail still has a lot of headroom in even the top, cities of the country like Bombay or Delhi or Bangalore. And so it's very hard to say, what will happen. I think that, companies or retailers will end up, still growing in, top 10 cities, will end up expanding to smaller cities, also grow there also, because like I said, India is just such a large market that there is opportunity, everywhere, right? And so I think it'll be a very long time before, cities get saturated with any kind of modern trade retailers or quick commerce or whatever, because we're still very, very far away from that saturation point.
But tell me one thing. So, for instance, let's say you finalize on a city. Let's take an example of Mumbai. Now we've decided that, okay, we want to open a few dark stores in a city like Mumbai. How do you decide which location to open, and what is like the customer insight or the density of that area? Like when you decide, okay, I want to open a dark store here.
Very good question. This is actually one of the most important decisions that we make in our business, right? Because if you get this wrong, okay, what does getting it wrong mean? So let's say you decide that I want to launch in Powai, for example, right? Or I want to launch in Matunga or Lower Parel or any neighborhood in the city or the country. One decision you could get wrong is that there isn't enough demand for Zepto in that pin code or in that neighborhood. That's one decision you could get wrong. The second decision you could get wrong is that there is enough demand. Let's say in Powai, intuitively you know that Powai is a fairly modern pin code. A lot of young people, they'll try Zepto, etc. But if you get the location of the dark store wrong, what does getting the location wrong mean? What it means is that my demand is all over here, but instead of placing the dark store here, I place it somewhere far away, right? And what that means is that for every order, the delivery partner has to travel a very long distance to the customer and come back, right? That means two things. That means that the customer is going to get a much longer delivery time, right? It also means that our delivery partners are going to be much less efficient because they're traveling a long distance and coming back for every order. And so actually making sure the dark store is placed as close to the demand hotspots as possible is a very, very important decision that we have to take. How do we actually take that decision? So this is something that this problem is very close to my heart because for the first 100 dark stores that we launched, I actually wrote the algorithm for this. And for every neighborhood, we would actually generate a map. I'd written some code to generate a map based on some things that I'll tell you. But the output of that was in Powai, there would be a map of Powai. There would be a yellow zone, a light green zone, and a dark green zone. And we would give this to our real estate team, saying that you need to find a dark store in the dark green zone, right? And then they would go and scout properties and so on. Now, what was this map, based on? We used to essentially scrape and map out a few different things. We would map out every single building and the number of flats in that building. So, for example, you told me you live in, Lower Parel, right? In one of these large towers, right? So we would map out every single one of these towers. I'd say, okay, this tower has 200 flats, or this tower has 800 flats, or this tower has 50 flats, so that we get an idea of how many people are living. That was one. On top of that, we would layer on things like how many schools are here, where are the schools, where are the existing supermarkets, where are the Domino's restaurants, where are the McDonald's, and where are, all of these other restaurants and cafes and so on. And based on that, we would, have this model to figure out where do people live largely. And then we would just try to find a dark store as close to, that location. Funnily enough, I won't name who this is, but, back in the day when we were launching the first few dark stores in Bombay, we had this whole scientific model to, decide where to launch the dark store. And one of the real estate brokers that we were working with to find properties told us that, one of your competitors has just told us a brief कि यार जहाँ पर भी Zepto खोल रहा है ना उसके पास में हमारा भी खोल दो, right? Because of the amount of science that we had put into deciding where to launch dark stores. But sorry, that was a long answer, but there is a lot that goes into making that decision.
That's very insightful. And I think there's a lot of data which has to be captured before you decide where to open your dark store. There's one interesting trending searches which I was just going through your website. Like currently, if you just go on Zepto's website, the current trending searches are like Bajaj table fan, OnePlus 13R, coconut water, Diet Coke. And the trending categories are ice cream, fans and coolers, talcum powder, mosquito nets, sunscreen, cold beverages. I want to ask you, these trending searches and popular categories, have you noticed an insight where this is different, let's say, city-wise, area-wise, and how does it change month-wise as well?
Yeah, 100%. And, it changes all the time and is very different at different times of the year, at different cities, different locations, different places within the city also. So I'll just talk through a few examples, but there's a long list of, examples that I could give here. So for example, most people drink regular water, right? Either have an RO at home or drink Bisleri water or so on. We do sell, Perrier sparkling water. This is an example top of mind because 2 days back, one of our investors who lives in South Bombay complained to us that Perrier is out of stock. So we just went to look at the data, and the store, we have a couple of stores in South Bombay. Like I'm talking about this Nipinsi Road type area around that part of the city. And, Perrier, the sparkling water is expensive, right? It does sell in other parts of the country as well, but it doesn't like the difference. So, for example, in the average dark store, the sales of Perrier might be like, one bottle sells every 2 or 3 days or something like that. Uh, you know, in this Nepencey Road dark store, it was selling like 5 units were selling every day, 10 units were selling every day, right? And so, there are like some nuances like that, where even within the city, there is like a lot of difference as to, what people are buying where. If you have like, I forget the name, but there's a place in Delhi where there's a lot of these coaching centers, right? And so their stationery sales are like always through the roof because people are buying notebooks and pens and pencils and whatever, all of that stuff. So there are some geographical nuances because of that. There are a lot of seasonal nuances. India is a country of a lot of festivals, right? Every other week there is, some festival or the other. It might be a couple of weeks back, Sunday is Mother's Day, tomorrow is Mother's Day. So there's a lot of like Mother's Day specific stuff that people will search for. A couple of weeks back was Akshaya Tritiya, which is where people buy gold coins and silver coins and all of that. There's Holi. Every couple of weeks there's some festival or the other. And so, the team has to actually put in a lot of effort to figure out, you know, what are the trends that might, come up this year and so on, so that we're prepared. And what examples I gave just now are very big festivals, right? There might be very small specific festivals. Like, for example, Ambedkar Jayanti is a very big deal in Maharashtra, or in Mumbai and Pune, but not in other places, right? And so there are like hundreds of these small festivals also, which are not like national level festivals, but there might be something that's very important in Chennai and Coimbatore, or something that's very important in just, Delhi. Right? Lodi, for example, is largely a north specific festival, and so on and so on. So a lot of that happens, right? And then the third aspect is like not festival linked, but still seasonal, which is the examples that you gave, which is right now it's summer, it's very hot. I just landed from Bangalore and came here straight from the airport, and the heat did, take me aback a little bit as well. And so, as you can imagine, in summers, coolers and, fans and ceiling fans and all of this stuff is stuff that we sell on the platform. And so, things like that spike, ice cream, soft drinks, all of those things spike. In the winters, it's the opposite, right? So the sunscreen will become a body lotion or Vaseline, right? And so the pattern keeps changing depending on the season. I think the most unique thing, though, if I have to just summarize all of this, is that quick commerce is a new phenomenon. Zepto started in July of 2021, so it's not even been 5 years since we started, Zepto. When we started, the average customer could only see like 2,000 products on the app, right? Believe it or not, Adit and I had a debate when we started. So you're very young when we started. We were like 18 or whatever. And we would not eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And so we actually, when we were first starting that first dark store, we debated also, should we, fruits and vegetables seems like a hassle, or chodo, let's not get into it, right? And we just said, basic cheese, ice cream and, chips and this and that. Let's just have that in stock, and that's enough, because those are the kinds of things that we used to consume. As it turned out, obviously, like fruits and vegetables is a very, very important use case for quick commerce. But even then, it was like still 2,000, 2,500 SKUs, very basic grocery stuff. Today, the kind of stuff that people search for, like people just assume कि यार Zepto पे तो मतलब मिल ही जाएगा, right? And so, there was this LPG shortage. Our induction cooktops. Now we sell induction cooktops, right? But obviously, on a normal day, they don't sell that much, right? Believe it or not, like on a normal day across the country, maybe like 10 to 20 induction cooktops used to sell. I don't know the exact number, but maybe in that range. When this LPG whatever issue happened a few months back, in one day we sold like, I don't know, there was like 10,000 induction cooktops sold in one day, right? And we just went out of stock everywhere. And so, the team has to be on their toes a lot, because, the kind of behavior that we see is we try to predict it as much as we can, but, sometimes these external events happen, right? Like I'll give you a not as nice of an example as well, which is that, recently in Mumbai, there was this, I think this case happened where like some people a few people passed away. They had eaten watermelon or something like that. I don't know the exact details, but something like this happened. And all of a sudden, like watermelon sales have just crashed to like zero. Like no one is buying watermelons in Maharashtra anymore on Zepto. And so some of these things are a little hard to predict, obviously. But for the most part, the team has a very hard job to do to keep up with all of these trends.
And has there been a time where, let's say, people want something, but they don't type that particular thing? For example, let's say if I want a laundry bag, for example, people will type, let's say, कपड़े रखने की bag,
Yes.
or tomatoes की जगह, let's say, टमाटर, onion की जगह, let's say, प्याज. How do you, like, are there any searches of this sort, and how do you then ensure that, okay, people are getting what they want?
Yeah. So very good question. So most of the things that people buy on Zepto, people search for that thing, right? So most of the buying, and I'm sure this is true for you guys as well, is that whenever you open Zepto or any quick commerce app for that matter, you have some idea of what you want. You're not going there to explore. You know, कि यार ये खत्म हो गया, and so I need to go and order this thing, right? And then maybe along the way you might add a couple of extra things, but the top one or two things that you're opening the app for, you go and search for those things, right? And so most of the business comes via search. Like you said rightly, people search for things in many different ways. India is also a country of many different languages, right? And so aloo and batata and potato and there's 20 different ways of saying the exact same thing. This was a much easier problem for us to solve when we were selling only, there were like 2,500 products that we were selling. Today, like I said, you can buy all kinds of things. You can buy kitchen utensils and iPhones and, pillow covers and curtains and bed sheets and, Maybelline and MAC and makeup and, all kinds of, things are currently being sold on Zepto. And so there the complexity goes up a lot, right? Because for tomato, translating tomato into 20 languages and hard coding that, okay, if someone searches tomato, show them tomatoes, is still easy to do if you have only 2 to 3,000 products. If that number explodes into the tens of thousands, then you start having a problem, right? Because it's impossible for a human being to sit and manually think of all the different ways that somebody will search for something. Thankfully, in the last couple of years, like I'm sure all of you are aware, this whole generative AI, LLM, ChatGPT wave has happened, and we now have access to a very powerful set of tools, right? And these LLMs are actually incredible at understanding intent, which means if you type a sentence, what is this customer actually looking for, is something that has become a lot easier to understand. So I'll give you a few examples. So, back in the day, or even now, in India, colloquially, or like in slang, you guys all know what mechanical pencils are, right? People in India call it pen pencil, right? I'm sure all of you, even growing up in school, would have called it a pen pencil. Now, the way that search on any app works, or used to work, is that you type, let's say, pen pencil, or any word or set of words or phrases. What search used to do is you used to break that sentence into individual words, which are called tokens, right? And you try to match that word with the title of the product or the description of the product. So in the past, let's say a few years ago, if you search for pen pencil, we would break pen pencil into pen and pencil and try to match each of these words individually with the entire catalog. So which means that the results would be pens would also be there, pencils would also be there, mechanical pencils would also be there. It was like a mix and mishmash. Now what has happened is, because LLMs, are actually able to understand intent much better, you type pen pencil, we know that this guy is not looking for pens and pencils. Pen pencil means he's actually looking for a mechanical pencil, and so you only surface those. That extends very well into all kinds of, types of products. So for example, the one you mentioned, kapde rakhne wala bag, or, body dhone wala sabun, or Hanuman ji ki murti, or Lakshman Rekha, or like, you name it. There's like all kinds of searches that, people search for. And they just expect, yeah, you should understand मैं क्या बोलना चाहता हूँ, right? And so, in the past, this was much harder to do. Now it's become a little easier because of all of these, LLMs that we've incorporated into the search bar at Zepto.
That's very interesting, because even I remember, like, I mean, I don't know, but bhindi is my favorite sabzi. So I don't search for lady finger. I just type like been
I
referring
don't
to.
think anyone searches for ladyfinger. It's just too much effort.
So I think that's quite fascinating to just like get what we want and just ensure that we are getting what we expect. So next thing, just wanted to discuss from a perspective where someone who wants to list on Zepto and someone who wants to sell via Zepto, what is your process? Where how do you figure out? Let's say that okay, I want to onboard this brand and I want to ensure that okay, this brand is going to do well, and you also reject a few brands and you will say no to a lot of brands as well. How do you decide कि ये brand को Zepto पे लाना है, बाकी brands को नहीं लाना है?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we actually have a whole team which is called a category team that makes some of these decisions. So look, basically the way to think of it is that there's a few things that they try to optimize for, right? Or that we are trying to optimize for, which is one that, our customers actually looking for this product, right? So because we have millions and millions of searches every day, right? We know that if someone is searching for XYZ product, like for example, 2 years ago, we would not be selling t-shirts on Zepto, right? Today, we probably have like 30, 40 different brands of t-shirts on Zepto. The reason we took that decision, कि अच्छा ठीक है, apparel or clothing as a category is one that we should get into, is because we saw that every day, X thousand people are searching for t-shirt, which means that there are real people who are looking for t-shirts on Zepto, so we should sell it, right? Same thing is true for a brand, right? There might be any brand XYZ, and if people are searching for that brand specifically, then we know okay, these many people are looking for this product, and so that is like a very strong signal for us, right? Because it means that there is already demand there. We don't have to create demand. Demand is already there. We just need to fulfill that demand. So that is an easy option, right? Like that is a more straightforward conversation. Where it starts to get trickier is, for example, let's say noodles as a category, right? Like now noodles has a lot of incumbent players. There's Maggie, there's Yippee, there is like some healthy noodles companies that are there. There might be like 8 or 10 different companies doing noodles already listed live on Zepto. Right now, let's say you're a brand and you are making noodles and you're brand number 11. Then already on Zepto, you're brand number 11. If you're not really doing anything different, right? If you're basically the product is the same as Maggie or Yippee or whatever, there's no good reason to, have that brand number 11 on the platform, which is where at times our team will be like, there's no, need to have this extra brand. However, whenever a brand is able to differentiate itself in some meaningful way, that could be, selling at a completely different price point or, using completely different ingredients. So I'll give you, there's so many good examples of this, by the way. There is like, the brand Minimalist just had a massive exit, to Unilever, I think a year ago or so. They really stood out, right? People did face washes before, right? Or moisturizers before, but they really stood out of the crowd. There are tons of D2C brands that have been able to do this really well. So I don't think it's impossible to do. Like I'm sure that, there will be some brand number 11 that will come into the noodles category and disrupt the noodles category. But for that, there has to be like some good, clear differentiation. And a lot of times, we actually advise brands to first build like some basic D2C presence, get some customers familiar, with the brand, test it out somewhere else that's not Zepto first. Once you see some little bit of traction, then come to Zepto because it's just easier for them that way. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we can't talk specific about the unit economics and the numbers from there, but let's say if a delivery partner is there, so how much money ideally does a delivery partner make in different parts of India per month?
Uh, they okay. I think this is a number that I can share because I don't think it's like a forward-looking statement or whatever. So it depends purely on how much they work, right? Like there are different kinds of delivery partners. There are some folks, for example, who might be just students who are in college or whatever, and over the weekend they want to earn some pocket money. There are some people who might want to treat this, put in like 40, 50 hours every week. So it really depends, right, on, what the nature of, how many hours they're putting in basically, because that flexibility does exist, for all of them. that number can go as high as like 35,000-40,000 rupees a month, right? If someone is treating it as like a full-time job. So but that number can be much lower also if you're only working for like, let's say 4 hours every Saturday and Sunday. So it really depends. As a wide spectrum, but yeah, it can go as high as 35,000-40,000 rupees per month as well.
What's the craziest delivery boy complaint or customer complaint you have received, and how did you resolve that?
So it's not a complaint, but I'll tell you guys a funny story. So we, like you said, right, we launched our first dark store in Bandra here. Who lives in Bandra? A lot of celebrities, right? A lot of Bollywood folks, and so I won't name like who the actress was, but we got word from somewhere ke, through somebody, ke XYZ actress has found out about Zepto, and a pretty A-list, big actress has found out about Zepto, and they're going to place an order. And so everybody's at the store. Anyway, that time we didn't have an office. The team was very small, 5-10 people. We used to work out of this dark store in Bandra. And so, we were just waiting. And we were checking every order that was coming in. We were checking the address, right? To figure out, is it this person that's ordered? And then that order came in. And there was pandemonium at the store. Because everybody was saying, "Nahi, mujhe karna hai, mujhe deliver karna hai." And ultimately, I think, like, the guy who's now our chief operating officer, right? He went and delivered the order because there was like a real fight between everybody. Nahi, mujhe jaake deliver karna hai. That was one funny story. Another story, which was more a funny complaint. So we did, in that first dark store that we had, I think we had tried doing this campaign back then, which was like, with every order, we were giving away a free dragon fruit, right? The idea for this was that, it's like a very weird gift, right? A dragon fruit is a very weird gift. It's premium, it's nice. People will then think, Zepto Pay, I can get, interesting exotic things. And so we said first 500 orders that we'll do in the store, or first 1,000 orders, we'll give away a free dragon fruit. Now, what we figured is that time we had no systems or no checks and balances, nothing, right? What we figured is that near this, so we were, that time we had no office, like I said, we would be sitting at the store. Every order that would come, we weren't doing that many orders. We were doing like 100 orders a day, 200 orders a day. So we knew the customers by name, right? Because every time the order would come, we would call the customer and say, "Oh, how did you find out about Zepto?" And so we knew the first 100 customers like very close. What we started seeing is that there was this, all of a sudden, one fine day, we saw a lot of orders where people are ordering Amul Cool, and that's it. It was like a 20 rupee Amul Cool, and that's it. And the reason for that is because, with every order, they were getting a free dragon fruit, right? And so we figured, someone is trying to like play around here. And so one of the guys in our team, his name is Chetan. He's in fact still, he leads our entire Mumbai city last mile operations right now, the whole delivery partner side of things. He had joined us very early on. So he's one of our earliest team members. He was like, "Nahi, main jaake dekhta hu." And he went along with the delivery partner and saw that there were these like 2-3 kids, right? Like maybe 7 or 8 years old. They'd figured out that they can get these dragon fruits. And so every phone that they could get their hand on, right, from their dad, mom, aunt, uncle, everybody in the community, they were just taking their phone, downloading Zepto, ordering the Amul Cool, because that 20 rupee Amul Cool was the cheapest product on Zepto, right? So that they could get this free dragon fruit. So this guy from our team, Chetan, he's like a big bulky guy. He went and he scared these kids, saying, "Yeah, you don't order," because at that time we didn't have systems to say, only once per customer or minimum itna order karo, then we give you the dragon fruit. So the only method we had to curb the fraud was to just go and like, he went and almost like threatened these kids and scared them away from, constantly ordering these Amul Cools to get the dragon fruit. So yeah, that's a funny story from back in the day.
That's quite interesting. So let's also spend some time on your personal front as well, in the sense you've spoken a lot about Zepto. You said that you started when you were 18. You're what, 23 now?
Yeah, 23. We actually started technically when you were like 17. We had to wait till we were 18 before we could open like a bank account. But yeah, 18, you can say.
Wow, that's a good problem to have. So I also read, I think on the Hurun list also, I think you also came as the India's youngest billionaire.
Yeah.
And that was also one thing that I read. I wanted to ask, Are you younger than your interns also?
Yeah, funnily enough, this year is the first year that last year, sorry, 2025 was the first year that the batch of college campus hires that we had were the same age as me. Because before that, in 2021, 2022, 2023, every year, I would do the induction or whatever for these guys. And, every time, we would go to campuses and do like these pre-placement talks and do the interviews because we used to do, and even today, we do hire quite a bit from, different campuses. And until recently they were all older than me. I think last year was like the tipping point where they're no longer older than me. But yeah, there was a time for the first 2 years.
So I'm sure you must be getting this a lot, but how do you then manage or deal with, let's say, some ego conflicts or issues when someone who is, let's say, 40, 45, who has joined the team in the leadership team, how do you as a 23-year-old convince that person to ensure that, okay, this is the problem, we have to solve for it?
Yeah, good question. So by the way, we've been very fortunate and blessed with an incredible leadership team. A lot of the people in the team are, today are, CTO or chief operating officer or whatever, are people that were within the first 5 or 10 people that we hired who have grown internally through the ranks. And we're very fortunate that, they're an incredible set of leaders. Here's the thing, right? In theory, you would think that, this would be a very big problem that, we are whatever 18, 20, 21, 23 years old. And then there's someone in our team who's like in their 30s or whatever, and they're reporting to us. And so, how do you manage that? The reality, though, is that it has not even come up in our mind, back of our mind, even once. Because the thing is that of course, there are people out there who would not be comfortable reporting to someone half their age. Those people don't even interview with us, right? Because, it's almost like a self-selecting thing in the interview process, which is that if you are somebody interviewing with a 21-year-old, 23-year-old, whatever, you're somebody who is comfortable, reporting to or working with somebody that young, right? And so the people who do end up joining then are people who by default are, comfortable with that. And those are people who generally have like very low ego, who generally just want to go build something important. In fact, one of the values that we have at the company is, um, ambition, right? People at the company are generally very ambitious. The way that we talk about that is, Kyar, you should have a story to tell your grandkids. Kyar, maine ye kiya hai, right? Like it's something that I'm proud of. And it's a story, right? And everyone on our team, from the junior people to the senior people, they're all actually not driven by mujhe itna paisa kamana hai, I want to earn this much money, or this or that, or this is my title, I want to become a director or a vice president or whatever. Most of them are actually driven by, I want to have a story to tell my grandkids. And I want to do something important with my life. I want to do something meaningful with my life. And so those kind of people don't really care how old are you and whatever. Everyone is just focused on the merit of the work and the merit of the ideas, and not this other, useless stuff.
So I was watching one interview of Adit. He mentioned that he used to work for 80, 100 hours a week also.
Yeah, we
Uh,
got in trouble for saying so.
Yeah. So how many hours would you work in a week?
Yeah. So we're at the office for, like we were speaking backstage, we're at the office for like 12 to 13 hours a day, roughly 12 to, 13, 14 hours. But the nature of our business is such that it's on 24/7, right? Like the platform is on delivering 24/7, 365. And so something or the other is always going on, right? Like I was telling you, tomorrow's Mother's Day. So preparing for that because you're expecting a big surge in orders. Doesn't matter, right? It's Saturday, Sunday, December 31st, Diwali, Christmas, New Year. Doesn't matter, right? Like the platform is always on. Our customers are all, in fact, on holidays is when the demand is even higher, right? And so, the peaks all happen on days like Diwali or days like December 31st or New Year's Eve or Christmas or Holi or whatever, right? And so ultimately we are in the service business. And so, you can't really ever, take your eye off the ball. And so formally in the office, 12 to 14 hours a day. But the business actually never sleeps. So
Wow, that's lovely. So last question in the interest of time. It's on a lighter note. ऐसा कभी हुआ है that Zepto बंद पड़ गया and you had to use Swiggy, Instamart or Blinkit to order groceries?
I'm sure at some point in the last couple of years that would have happened, but very infrequently.
The first one coming in from Jay Ramparia, and he says, for quick commerce in general, what is the next leg of growth? Have you yet faced the question of what is next?
There are basically a couple of inputs that you can think of to growth, right? One is, how many customers do you have, right? What is that number? How often are they buying stuff, right? Which is, people call it typically frequency, which is for every customer that's buying on Zepto, are they buying once a month, twice a month, 8 times a month, 4 times a month, whatever. And the third aspect is, when they buy something, how much stuff do they buy, right? And what do they buy, right? And so those are the main inputs into growth. And those are the main things that you can play around with also, right? Or try to improve. And so you might, for example, try to get more users by spending money on ads on Google and Facebook. Or you might want to, launch in some new city to get new customers. Or you might want to launch in like some new category, right? You say, okay, earlier I was only selling grocery. Now I also sell t-shirts and smartphones and beauty products. And that's a way of getting the same customers. Earlier they were buying twice a month, 4 times a month, whatever, for example. And now they're buying 6 times a month because now on Zepto, they can buy a lot more things, right? And so those are the different types of things, types of levers for growth. Like I said earlier, I think that, quick commerce, modern trade, all of these things are still very, very small in just basic grocery. And so I just think that there is like probably just a lot. I won't say anything else. I'll pause there.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to the next question, which is coming from Arun Mehtani. He says that quick commerce is perceived as a labor-intensive, logistics-driven delivery game. However, are there emerging or underappreciated technologies, particularly in AI, that could significantly disrupt the industry once again? Any signals or early indications? Do they exist?
Yeah. So we use AI in many, many different ways. Will any of them fundamentally disrupt quick commerce? Unlikely, because ultimately someone has to go pack the order physically or go deliver it to somebody. And so those aspects of the business I don't think will change. However, there are, from the search examples that we just spoke about to, how do you predict how many tomatoes are going to sell in this dark store in Bombay to, customer support, something I've talked about publicly before. So today about 75 to 80% of, customer support tickets are, don't actually go through a human being. They just get resolved with like some LLM. And that LLM, now the LLMs have gotten so good that you can take a picture of your bananas and say that these bananas are not good. And you can actually detect how bad the bananas are from the image and say, okay, look, you seem to be a good customer, or, you ask for a refund every time. So this time I won't give you a refund. These AI models are now good enough to do a lot of this decision making themselves. And so there's like 100 different, I could keep going on, but there's a lot of ways in which you're using AI to make the business more productive or more efficient. But I don't think it's going to fundamentally disrupt quick commerce because, the ultimate act of going and packing an order and doing a delivery is always going to remain the same.
So perhaps a more supportive role than a disruptive role when it comes to...
It's an enabler in many ways.
Understood. Thank you so much for taking on those questions. Do remain on stage as we bring out a small token of appreciation, a book that's just been launched this morning, Alphabets by Grow. Let's hear it for both the gentlemen on the stage, ladies and gentlemen. A lovely conversation on the future of quick commerce. Thank you, Kushal and Kavalya. Thank you very much. A quick photo op right there.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Please read the risk disclosure documents carefully before investing in equity shares, derivatives, mutual fund, and or other instruments traded on the stock exchanges.